I'm James Whitaker, 45 years old, a construction engineer from Seattle, and tonight I'm sitting in Celeste, the most extravagant restaurant I've ever seen, attending the 40th wedding anniversary celebration of my in-laws, Edward and Margaret Harrington, founders of the Harrington Culinary Group empire. The ambiance of Celeste is like a dream. Sparkling crystal chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a dazzling view of Puget Sound at sunset, and the faint aroma of truffle wafting from the kitchen. But my heart feels like it stops when the waiter places the bill on the table. $200,000. My sister-in-law Vanessa Brooks flashes a sweet smile, looks straight at me, and loudly says, "Oh, brother-in-law, we forgot our wallets and cards at home." I sit there, with a nearly maxed-out credit card and only $200 in my bank account, feeling the blood rush to my face. What happens next leaves me stunned. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the latest video. I grew up in Tacoma, a working-class town not far from Seattle. My dad was a mechanic, my mom a bank teller, and our family lived frugally, never knowing designer clothes or lavish vacations. I worked part-time at a grocery store throughout high school, saving every penny to attend the University of Washington, where I studied construction engineering. After graduating, I built a stable career, but never became wealthy. My first marriage ended 10 years ago, leaving me with Sophie, my 19-year-old daughter who's now in college. All my savings go toward her tuition and my retirement fund, so when faced with the Harringtons' extravagant events, I always feel out of place. I met Laura Harrington, my wife, at a charity project in Pike Place Market 4 years ago. Laura, 40, works for a nonprofit helping underprivileged kids. Tall, with warm brown eyes and a great sense of humor, she's unlike any other high-society woman I've met. We bonded over coffee breaks, group work, and heartfelt conversations. It took 3 months for me to learn she was a Harrington, part of the family that owns 35 upscale restaurants across the Pacific Northwest, a mansion in the San Juan Islands, and a private jet Edward jokingly says is for worthy golf trips. When Laura told me, she shrugged. "It's just restaurants, no big deal." But I quickly learned that just restaurants meant 35 luxurious establishments, a property in Queen Anne, and a lifestyle I'd only seen in magazines. Meeting the Harringtons was a major challenge. Edward Harrington, now in his 60s, started with a small diner in Queen Anne at 22. He still carries the unassuming demeanor of someone who worked hard, but his tailored suits and casual ordering of $1,000 wines show he's accustomed to wealth. Margaret Harrington, my mother-in-law, comes from a prominent Seattle family, exuding natural elegance. She always asks about my job or Sophie with genuine interest, but I wonder if she truly sees me as worthy of Laura. Then there's Vanessa Brooks, married to Thomas, Laura's older brother. Vanessa, 38, a Stanford graduate, holds a symbolic role at Harrington Culinary Group, mostly attending charity galas and posting Maldives photos on Instagram. The first time we met, she scanned me from head to toe, from my plain jacket to my non-designer shoes, and said, "Construction engineering, how interesting." Her tone implied my job was insignificant. My first Christmas with the Harringtons was a shock. Their gifts to each other were designer bags, luxury watches, and weekend trips to Europe, given with the ease of handing out toys. I'd spent weeks crafting a family photo collection, printed and carefully framed, but when Vanessa opened my gift, she gave a forced smile. How crafty. Then she set the frame aside to admire the diamond bracelet Thomas gave her. I felt like I'd been pushed out of their circle. Laura and I love each other for our authenticity. She wanted a simple ring when I proposed, one that belonged to her grandmother. But at our engagement party, I overheard Vanessa whispering to Thomas, "Why not add some diamonds? This ring looks so cheap." Our wedding was a compromise, simple by my standards, but fancier than anything my family had experienced, though it couldn't compare to Vanessa's lavish ceremony, featured in Vogue Northwest with a performance by a famous singer. After the wedding, Laura and I moved into a modest house in Capitol Hill, a sensible investment instead of the penthouse Edward suggested. I kept working as an engineer, and Laura stayed at her nonprofit, both of us wanting to be independent, not relying on the Harringtons, but our independence often clashed with family expectations. Vanessa and Thomas live in a sprawling apartment overlooking Elliott Bay, drive matching luxury SUVs, and spend money like it's endless. Family gatherings often became stages for Vanessa to subtly flaunt, commenting on our cute little house, or asking when I'd take on bigger responsibilities in a more fitting job. Laura always stood by me, but sometimes she didn't notice Vanessa's jabs, or the pressure I felt to fit into their world. When Edward and Margaret announced the 40th anniversary celebration at Celeste, I knew it would be extravagant, and a chance for Vanessa to push me into an unbearable situation. When Edward and Margaret Harrington announced they'd host their 40th wedding anniversary celebration, I knew it would be lavish, but I never expected it to become a financial nightmare for me and Laura. The tension started 6 months earlier at a family dinner at their Queen Anne mansion, where everything from lobster bisque to filet mignon screamed luxury. Edward, holding a glass of vintage red wine, declared, 40 years is a milestone. We'll celebrate it, Celeste. Vanessa Brooks, my sister-in-law, immediately chimed in. Perfect. I know the chef from last year's charity gala. I'll handle everything. She scrolled through her phone, as if ready to call Seattle's entire elite. Margaret added, we want to keep it intimate, just family and close friends, about 40 people, matching our 40 years. Vanessa nodded, but her eyes gleamed with excitement, as if this was her chance to shine. I sat there, forcing a smile, but my stomach churned. Celeste wasn't just a restaurant, it was a symbol of opulence, famous for gold-dusted desserts, rare imported ingredients, and a wine cellar worth millions. I'd heard the waitlist for reservations stretched months, unless you were a Harrington. Edward ended the dinner with a statement that sent a chill down my spine. We'll split the celebration costs equally among the kids. Your mom and I just want to enjoy it without worrying about details. Splitting evenly sounded fair, but when the other contributors were Vanessa and Nathan, with incomes 5 times ours, fair suddenly felt unjust. That night, as Laura and I got ready for bed in our small Capitol Hill house, I cautiously broached the subject. Your parents' anniversary, how much do you think each couple will chip in? Laura, hanging up her coat, shrugged. Probably a few thousand per couple. Why? I sat on the bed's edge, keeping my voice calm. A few thousand is a lot for us right now. The roof repair, Sophie's tuition, and the mortgage rate hike. Laura came over, placing a hand on my shoulder. I know things are tight. My company just cut budgets, and you're still waiting for that promotion. But this means a lot to Mom and Dad. If it's too much, you could talk to Dad. I shook my head, knowing that would only give Vanessa more ammunition to mock me. No need. We'll figure it out, I said, but I wasn't convinced. The next day, I researched Celeste online, hoping to gauge the costs. The restaurant didn't list prices, a bad sign for someone like me who counts every dollar. Reviews mentioned tasting menus, starting at $500 per person, excluding wine, tax, or tip. For 40 guests, the minimum cost would be $20,000, and with the premium wines Vanessa would surely pick, it could easily double. Our share, if split evenly, would exceed our monthly mortgage payment. I started cutting expenses immediately, packing lunches instead of eating out, canceling the rarely used gym membership, and taking on extra weekend consulting projects. Laura cut back on coffee dates with friends and skipped a work trip to save on travel costs. But no matter how hard we tried, the pressure kept mounting. Vanessa, meanwhile, turned the party planning into a display of extravagance. She set up a dedicated email address and sent daily updates on the menu, decor, and seating arrangements. One email listed wine options, with names like Chateau Lafite Rothschild, each bottle costing thousands. Another mentioned orchids imported from the Netherlands and a string quartet from a prestigious conservatory. Each update was a reminder that this event was beyond my reach. Laura tried to reassure me. Vanessa just wants it to be perfect. I'll ask her to consider the budget, but I knew talking to Vanessa was like talking to a wall. A week later, Vanessa sent a group email announcing that she had finalized the menu, including a rare champagne with a per-bottle price exceeding my monthly rent. I stared at the email, feeling like I was being suffocated. The anniversary celebration hadn't even happened yet, but I could already sense the trap Vanessa was setting. I didn't know how to face it, but I knew, somehow, I had to protect Laura and myself from her manipulation. The day before the anniversary, Vanessa Brooks organized what she called a prep day for Margaret and the wives and the Harrington family, including me, the escort. The itinerary she sent via email was as elaborate as a wedding plan: a spa session at an exclusive salon in downtown Seattle, lunch at Le Bistro in Pike Place Market, and shopping at upscale stores on Fifth Avenue. I reluctantly joined, mainly to please Laura and Margaret, but deep down, I knew Vanessa would seize this chance to remind me of the gap between us. I arrived at the salon 15 minutes early, hoping to chat privately with Margaret before the others showed up. The receptionist led me to a waiting area with cucumber water and imported Italian biscuits, informing me that Mrs. Harrington called to say everyone will be 20 minutes late. I sat there sipping the water, feeling out of place in the luxurious setting. When the group finally arrived, Vanessa led the way in designer athleisure, probably worth more than my entire wardrobe. Sorry for being late, she declared, without a hint of remorse. Mom and I were finalizing some surprise details for tomorrow. Margaret hugged me gently, her voice warm. James, you look tired. Everything okay? Before I could respond, Vanessa cut in. He's fine, Mom. The spa was pure extravagance. Vanessa moved between everyone, showing off photos of Celeste's private dining room on her phone. We've chosen a special menu with wine pairings for each course, she gushed. And the flowers are imported from the Netherlands. The room will feel like a cloud. I nodded, but my mind was fixated on the looming bill. After the spa, we went to Le Bistro, where a salad cost $35. Vanessa ordered champagne for the table without checking the price. When the bill arrived, over $600, she made a show of rummaging through her designer bag. "Oh no, I forgot my wallet at home in this morning's rush. James, can you cover it? I'll pay you back tomorrow." I forced a smile, handed over my credit card, knowing this meant canceling next week's grocery delivery. "Thanks, you're a lifesaver," Vanessa said sweetly, as the waiter took the card. Then she added, "Oh, I've reserved a table for dinner tonight too. The guys are golfing, so I thought we could dine together." Margaret, perhaps noticing my expression, gently intervened. "I'm a bit tired, maybe we should save our energy for tomorrow." Vanessa looked disappointed, but agreed. Next we headed to a boutique on Fifth Avenue, where the staff knew Vanessa by name. They brought out suit after suit for me to try, but Vanessa dismissed the ones I liked. "Too ordinary. That color's outdated, not suitable for Celeste." Finally, she held up a black suit priced at $2,100. "This is perfect, refined and classy." I saw the price tag, and my heart sank. "It's nice, but I don't think..." Before I could finish, Vanessa interrupted. "James, you need something appropriate for the venue. Consider it a long-term investment." Margaret, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. "Vanessa, perhaps James already has something suitable. Not everyone needs new clothes for every occasion." Vanessa smiled, but her eyes were cold. "Mom, we're hosting at Seattle's most exclusive restaurant. I just want everyone to look the part." I ended up choosing a discounted suit, still pricier than usual but within budget. Vanessa glanced at it, whispering to the salesperson, "Bargain hunters." As we walked to the parking lot, I overheard Vanessa talking to Margaret a few steps ahead. "I don't understand why Laura didn't choose someone better. James is always pinching pennies. It's embarrassing." Margaret replied softly, "Not everyone measures success by money, Vanessa." But she said no more, and that silence felt like tacit agreement, cutting me deeply. I pretended to check my phone, but my heart was heavy. When I got home, I was mentally exhausted. Laura asked, "How was the ladies' day?" I replied warily. Vanessa turned it into a stage to remind me I don't belong in your family. Laura sighed. "You're exaggerating. Vanessa is just Vanessa. She doesn't mean harm." I shook my head. "She made me pay for lunch because she forgot her wallet, then pushed me to buy a $2,500 suit. Tomorrow will be worse." Laura hugged me. "Tomorrow's just a party. It'll pass." I nodded, but deep down I knew she was terribly wrong. The evening of the anniversary arrived with perfect early fall weather in Seattle, the clear sky reflecting a shimmering sunset over Puget Sound. Laura and I took an Uber to Celeste, avoiding the $70 parking fee, a small but necessary saving amid the mounting financial pressure. As we stepped out of the elevator on the top floor of Emerald Tower, a staff member in a flawless suit greeted us. "Welcome to Celeste. Are you here for the Harrington party?" I nodded, and he led us through the main dining area, where Seattle's elite savored exquisite dishes, to a private room at the back. The space was like a dream, crystal chandeliers casting a warm glow, tables draped in white silk with orchids and gold-rimmed plates. The open kitchen wafted scents of truffle and saffron, blending with the gentle music of a string quartet. Through floor-to-ceiling windows, the sunset enveloped Seattle from the Space Needle to Elliott Bay. But I couldn't enjoy the beauty. I was consumed by thoughts of the impending bill. Edward and Margaret stood in the center of the room, he in a classic tuxedo, she in a sapphire gown accentuating her elegant silver hair. They greeted us warmly, Margaret holding my hand a moment longer. "James, you look wonderful. Thank you for celebrating with us." I smiled, touched by her warmth, but the unease lingered. Vanessa and Nathan Brooks arrived just after us, turning heads. Vanessa's designer gown sparkled with diamonds, each step a performance. Nathan, with lab-crafted good looks, scanned the room with effortless confidence. The seating, no doubt orchestrated by Vanessa, placed Laura and me across from her, with Edward and Margaret at the table's ends. As everyone settled, staff brought out trays of champagne, not the usual kind, but a rare vintage, as the sommelier explained with reverence, chosen specially for the occasion. I later learned each bottle cost over $6,000. Edward stood, raising his glass. "To 40 years with the most wonderful woman I've ever known. Margaret, you make every day worth living." Margaret, eyes glistening, raised her glass in return. "And to the family we've built, our greatest achievement." Everyone sipped the champagne, and the first course arrived, Ocetra caviar with gold leaf and creme fraiche. The sommelier presented a white wine to pair with the dish, and Vanessa announced loudly, "We'll enjoy a different wine for each course." The staff selected exceptional vintages from Celeste's private cellar. I watched Nathan sip the wine, commenting on Burgundy grapes, while I fumbled, unsure whether to use the small spoon or the smaller fork for the caviar. Laura, sensing my awkwardness, subtly used her utensils first to guide me. Vanessa leaned across the table, her voice syrupy. "James, you've hardly touched your caviar. Not to your taste?" The question was crafted to highlight my inexperience, but I smiled, just savoring it slowly. It's not every day you get to enjoy something this special. Vanessa replied with mock sympathy. Oh, of course. I forgot not everyone's used to fine dining. Margaret, overhearing, deftly changed the subject. But Vanessa didn't let up. When the main course Wagyu beef with Japanese truffles arrived, she noticed I requested water instead of the red wine. No Bordeaux, James? This bottle's over $3,000. Dad had it specially imported for tonight. I kept my voice steady, just taking a break. The food's so good, I want to remember every flavor. Vanessa gave a thin smile. So thrifty. The dinner stretched through 7 courses, each paired with a different wine. My anxiety about the cost grew, especially as Vanessa kept emphasizing the extravagance. She presented Edward and Margaret with a world cruise including a vow renewal in Santorini, making our gift a handcrafted model of Edward's first diner seem insignificant. Vanessa whispered to Thomas, loud enough for me to hear, so creative when the budget's tight. I clenched my hands under the table, trying to stay calm. At dessert gold-dusted chocolate, Vanessa stood, tapping her glass for attention. Before tonight ends, we have a special surprise. She beamed at her parents. To thank you, we want to cover the entire dinner. Edward tried to object, but Vanessa pressed on. We insist. It's the least we can do for 40 years of love and guidance. The manager brought a leather portfolio and handed it to Vanessa. She opened it, glanced briefly, then passed it to Thomas, who raised an eyebrow at the figure. When it reached me, I nearly choked. 200,000. Vanessa approached us, her voice ringing out. Isn't it wonderful? Now we'll split it evenly between the 2 couples and present the gift to Mom and Dad, right? She pulled out a black American Express card. Thomas followed suit, and both looked at me expectantly. I stood, intending to pull Vanessa aside, but she spoke loudly, feigning dismay. Oh, brother-in-law, we forgot our wallets and cards at home. So embarrassing, at a time like this. Thomas chimed in. Yeah, left everything at home, such a shame. The room grew tense, guests turned to look, and the manager hovered nearby. Laura gripped my hand, her face flushed. I felt everything crumble, the months of worry, Vanessa's constant belittling, and I couldn't take it anymore. My voice rang out calm but firm. Yes, there's a problem. Vanessa arranged for Laura and me to pay half of a $200,000 bill, knowing we can't afford it. The room fell silent. Margaret covered her mouth. Edward frowned. Vanessa quickly defended herself, her voice saccharine. It was a surprise gift from all of us. I didn't know James and Laura were having financial trouble. Laura, finally speaking, said firmly, We're not in trouble. We live within our means and make responsible choices. What we can't do is spend $100,000 on a dinner. The silence stretched endlessly. This was exactly what Vanessa wanted, to publicly shame us, to cast us as the poor relatives. But then something unexpected happened. Edward began to laugh, a deep chuckle that echoed through the room. Margaret joined in, her usual elegance dissolving into genuine amusement. Vanessa, paling, asked, Dad, Mom, what's so funny? Edward, wiping his eyes, stood. Vanessa, did you really think I'd let you kids pay for this party? The morning after the anniversary, Laura and I drove to Edward and Margaret's Queen Anne mansion for a brunch Edward had requested. After last night's events at Celeste, I felt a mix of anxiety and hope. Edward and Margaret's laughter when they revealed they'd paid the $200,000 bill had shattered Vanessa's trap, but I knew family tensions couldn't be resolved in one moment. Laura held my hand in the car, whispering, It'll be okay today, James. Mom and Dad want things cleared up. I nodded, but inside, I was uneasy, unsure how Vanessa would react after being exposed in front of everyone. The Queen Anne mansion was a stunning structure, with large windows overlooking Puget Sound and a meticulously tended garden. As we entered, Margaret greeted us warmly, leading us to the formal dining room where a brunch spread awaited, fresh croissants, tropical fruit, and fragrant coffee. Vanessa and Thomas Brooks were already there, sitting quietly, a stark contrast to their usual confidence. Vanessa, in a simpler dress than usual, avoided my gaze. Thomas scrolled through his phone, but I could tell he was uncomfortable. Edward stood at the table's head, reading the Sunday paper, his reading glasses perched low on his nose. James, Laura, good morning, he said, folding the paper. Grab some coffee. Maria's cinnamon rolls are fantastic. The brunch began with light conversation, the beautiful weather, compliments on the food, and a few fond memories from last night's party. But the atmosphere remained tense, as if everyone was waiting for a bomb to drop. After everyone had served themselves, Edward cleared his throat, shifting to the main topic. I want to talk about last night. Vanessa, your mother and I have thought a lot about it. Vanessa sat up straighter, her face defensive. Edward looked at her, his voice not harsh but firm. Have you apologized yet? I don't recall hearing you say sorry to James and Laura. Vanessa glanced at me briefly, then lowered her eyes to her plate. I'm sorry for putting James and Laura in an awkward position, she said softly. That wasn't my intention. Edward tilted his head. not your intention. Vanessa, your mother and I have seen you do this for years, forgetting your wallet when you're with James, commenting on their house or lifestyle, pushing them into expenses beyond their means. Thomas started to speak, but Margaret raised a hand, her voice gentle but resolute. Thomas, perhaps this is a time to listen, not defend. Vanessa flushed but didn't respond. Edward continued, his voice softening like he was telling a story. When I started out, I had nothing. Did you know that, Vanessa? I had exactly $20 in my pocket when I proposed to your mother. I'd heard this story before, but Vanessa looked surprised. Your mother came from a prominent family, but I was just a waiter dreaming of opening my own diner. She didn't care about my bank account. She saw something in me beyond money, sincerity and ambition. That's the foundation of this family, not wealth or status. Margaret looked at Vanessa, her voice kind. Sweetheart, since you met James, I've seen you judge him by his clothes, his job, his background, everything except who he really is. Vanessa protested weakly. I didn't mean to. I just wanted everyone to fit in. Laura, speaking for the first time, said firmly. Fitting in doesn't mean forcing others to live your way. You've created situations to make James feel like an outsider in our family. That has to stop. Silence enveloped the room. I was surprised when Margaret turned to me. James, would you take a walk with me in the garden? Your father and the kids need to talk privately for a bit. I nodded, following her to the small garden behind the house, where roses and herbs were meticulously tended. Margaret took my hand, her voice low. I want to tell you something few people know. My family was once a prominent name in Seattle, but by the time I was born, we had almost no money left, just the house in Queen Anne and a few pieces of jewelry. My parents kept up the appearance of wealth, but we ate simple meals in the kitchen after lavish parties. I looked at her astonished. When I met Edward, he was a waiter studying business at night. My family opposed him, wanting me to marry someone rich to restore our fortune. But Edward had vision and integrity, qualities I see in you when you came to Laura. I was moved, admitting, I've tried to fit into the family, maybe too hard. Margaret smiled. We never wanted you to change to belong here. When we returned to the dining room, the mood had shifted. Vanessa sat quietly, her eyes red. Edward was speaking, his voice both gentle and firm. Starting tomorrow, Vanessa will join the Harrington Culinary Group scholarship program, working directly with struggling students and staff. Thomas will assist the financial committee, helping employees learn budgeting and investing. Vanessa nodded, her usual confidence gone. I think this will help you understand true value, Edward said. I sat there, feeling relief but still emotional. This conversation stripped bare the tensions I'd endured for so long, and for the first time, I felt truly seen by the Harrington family. At Edward's request, Vanessa began working with the Harrington Culinary Group scholarship program, supporting struggling students and restaurant staff. At first I thought she was just going through the motions, but unexpected messages from her made me reconsider. One afternoon, while I was reviewing technical drawings at the office, my phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. James, any suggestions for promoting the scholarship program? I want to attract more sponsors. I was surprised, rereading the message several times to make sure I wasn't mistaken. Though the question was a bit clumsy, it showed Vanessa was trying, something I never thought possible. Meanwhile, Laura and I decided to host a simple dinner at our modest Capitol Hill home, inviting the entire Harrington family. I worried Vanessa would comment on our cute little house again, but Laura reassured me. James, things are different now. Give them a chance. We prepared the meal together. I grilled steaks, Laura made salad and cornbread, and Sophie, my daughter home from college, helped set the table. Our dining table, once my grandmother's, was scratched and ringed with watermarks from generations of family meals. It wasn't glamorous like Celeste's tables, but it held the warmth I cherished. When the Harringtons arrived, I was surprised to see Vanessa and Thomas dressed more casually than usual. Vanessa wore a sweater and jeans, no sparkling jewelry. Nathan brought a bottle of wine, not $1,000 vintage, but a local one from the Columbia Valley. Edward and Margaret entered, hugging Laura and me warmly. Edward looked around the house, smiling. This place has soul, James. It tells stories. No one mentioned renovations or upgrades, something I'd feared Vanessa would bring up. The dinner unfolded in a relaxed atmosphere, filled with laughter and Edward's tales of his youth, like the time he accidentally set the kitchen on fire while opening his first diner in Queen Anne. After the meal, as Laura and Margaret washed dishes in the kitchen, Vanessa approached me, holding a coffee mug. James, can we talk for a moment? She said softly, her eyes free of their usual arrogance. I nodded, bracing for an excuse, but she surprised me. I owe you a real apology, not just for Celeste but for everything over the years. I treated you like you weren't good enough for Laura, just because you don't live like us. I stayed quiet, letting her continue. I've never had to earn anything myself. Everything, education, job, lifestyle, was handed to me. I judged you for working hard when really I'm the one who's never tried. Her voice trembled slightly, and I realized this wasn't an act. I want to start over, to know you as Laura's husband, not someone to compare to. I was stunned, never expecting such openness from Vanessa. Everyone has their own path, Vanessa, I replied. You're trying now and I respect that. She nodded, giving a small smile, and for the first time it felt genuine. Edward and Margaret frequently praised Laura and me for our simple lifestyle. During one phone call, Margaret said, "James, you and Laura remind us what truly matters. Love and sincerity, not money." A special moment came when Sophie attended a family dinner at Edward and Margaret's. She shared how she worked part-time to cover some of her tuition, prompting Edward to nod approvingly. "You're like your dad, Sophie. That's the quality this family needs." Vanessa, sitting nearby, listened intently, no longer showing her old mocking attitude. As everyone left our dinner, Edward raised his final glass of wine, to homes filled with love, not things, and to family bonds stronger than bank accounts. Margaret looked at me from across the table, her eyes full of acceptance and affection, something no designer bag or Celeste reservation could match. For the first time, I felt I truly belonged to the Harrington family, not as someone trying to fit in but as myself, with the values I've always held dear. After everyone left, Laura and I stood in the small kitchen of our Capitol Hill home, cleaning up the remaining dishes from the family dinner. The soft yellow light glowed on the worn dining table, still echoing the laughter of Edward, Margaret, and even Vanessa. I looked at Laura, her hair loosely tied, sleeves rolled up, and felt a simple happiness no money could buy. Suddenly, I pulled her into a slow dance in the cramped kitchen, twirling her between the fridge and the counter. Laura laughed loudly. "James, what are you doing?" I pressed my forehead to hers, whispering, "I realized something tonight. We're the richest people I know in all the ways that truly matter." Reflecting on my journey, I realized the $200,000 bill at Celeste, the one that nearly broke me, was the catalyst for finding my true place in the Harrington family. Not as someone striving to fit in or prove myself, but as James Whitaker, a 45-year-old engineer who loves Laura for who she is, living simply and authentically. For years I worried about not being classy enough for her family, but Edward and Margaret's sincerity, Vanessa's change, and Laura's love taught me that human worth isn't in wealth. Our home, with its scratched dining table and old pickup in the garage, won't grace design magazines like Vanessa and Thomas's apartment, but it holds love and precious memories. The story of James Whitaker in Seattle, Washington, reflects the social and financial pressures many in the U.S. face today, especially in a society where success is often measured by wealth and status. James, a 45-year-old construction engineer living simply in Capitol Hill, faced mockery from his sister-in-law Vanessa Brooks for his frugal lifestyle and working-class Tacoma roots. The $200,000 bill at Celeste, paired with Vanessa's "Oh, brother-in-law, we forgot our wallets and cards," was the peak of her manipulation to belittle James, mirroring the competitive showy culture in some American upper-class circles. Yet, Edward and Margaret Harrington's laughter when revealing they'd paid the bill, along with Vanessa's growth through the scholarship program, underscored that human value lies in sincerity, not money. Margaret's garden conversation, revealing her own humble past, and the simple dinner at James's, with its scratched table, reinforced the power of authentic relationships. The lesson is that in modern American life, where financial strain and social comparison, from Vanessa's Instagram to lavish events like Celeste's party, can make us feel inferior, focus on personal values and meaningful connections. Learn from James, who found peace living true to himself, and Vanessa, who grew to value effort through community work. Whether in Seattle or elsewhere, build your own dining table, a place where love and sincerity outshine all extravagance. Subscribe to the channel to follow more family stories and life lessons like James's journey in Seattle. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next video with even more drama and emotion.